Vladimir Putin's digital Gulag. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. If you want a detailed and forensic examination of what Vladimir Putin is, then I would encourage you to access my series about him, chronicling his life and examining much of what has occurred within it to make a determination as to what he is. You'll find it fascinating, and I'd very much encourage you to watch it. Putin is a lower grade and narcissistic psychopath, and with that comes a double necessity for control. Control as part of the prime aims, control as part of the necessary triad. And what you're about to hear now is demonstrative of how a lower, greater, and aware narcissistic psychopath goes about achieving that control and the scope and extent of it, given the position of power that he holds to begin with. At first glance, Max looks harmless enough. Max is an online app. Its anodyne blue and white logo gives no indication of its origins or its sinister purpose. Yet this seemingly innocuous messaging service is set to become an important tool in President Putin's attempt to impose total control over the online lives of ordinary Russians. This is where the online environment, social media, proves to be a double-edged sword for the narcissist. On the one hand, utilization of the online environment allows the narcissist to extend their reach, meaning that millions, hundreds of millions of people could potentially be controlled, have fuel drawn from them, and appropriate character traits and residual benefits extracted from them. The problem, however, is that the existence of the online environment and social media means that there is a tool by which criticism of a leader, their regime, their behavior can quickly gain traction, and it's much harder to control it. In the days beforehand, it was invariably the case that a dictator would seize control of all forms of media, print media, radio, and television to ensure that only their message was propagated, and it would only be a few daring souls that would perhaps print their own newsletters and possibly broadcast on a pirate radio station which ran the risk of being raided and shut down to ensure that a contrary message would be disseminated compared to that of the state apparatus. Now, the problem is that with the existence of social media, it becomes far easier for those dissenting voices not only to be heard, but to gain traction. And that, of course, means that they amount to a threat to control. Accordingly, there becomes the necessity of the lower greater that is Vladimir Putin to impose that total control over the online lives of ordinary Russians, and he has done so through the creation of a new online app. The app, which was test launched in March, was developed on Putin's orders and provides online messaging, video calls, mobile payments, social networking, and access to government services. It sounds something of a one-stop shop. It was developed by the Kremlin-controlled company VK. Under a new law, it will be installed on every digital device that is sold in Russia from September the 1st. Accordingly, every digital device that you purchase, Big Brother comes installed. Critics have described it as a spy program that installs snooping software on a user's smartphone that remains in place even after the app is removed. Undoubtedly, an individual that requires such hegemonic control is going to develop an app that remains even when you try to get rid of it. It is being seen as Russia's equivalent to China's WeChat app, which Beijing uses for online surveillance and censorship. Max is interested in where the user was, who they called, or wrote to, including through other messengers, what crypto wallets and bank accounts they have, as well as what purchases they made, what cafes they visited, and what they surfed for on the internet, wrote Red Binder, a Russian Telegram channel that focuses on online issues. Data that is collected by Max will be easily accessible to the FSB, security services, and Kremlin agents, might even be able to monitor online conversations in real time, analysts say. Again, undoubtedly, this apparatus is something that an individual craving total control would want to be put in place, so that dissenting voices can be heard the moment they are aired and clamped down on. Andrei Okun, a Russian opposition journalist, called Max a key component in the Kremlin's plans to construct a digital Gulag, a reference to Soviet labor camps. This will be a sterile space in which the authorities have complete control over the leisure time, motives, and thoughts of citizens, he wrote in an article for the Republic website. When Putin came to power 25 years ago, about 1% of Russians were online, and the Kremlin paid little attention to the internet. Even in 2010, Putin was largely dismissive of its potential, describing it as 50% porn material and claiming never had been online. By 2011, when the first large anti-Putin protests broke out in Moscow, naturally a threat to control, 1 in 2 people had access to the internet, and foreign websites such as YouTube and Facebook became the opposition movement's most potent weapons, the point that I made earlier in this video. Putin realized that if left untamed, the internet could destroy him. Initially, he was dismissive, haughty, arrogant. The internet, what's that? Don't bother with it. It's just for porn. But as time went on, he came to realize its massive potential to undermine his inherent and pathological need for control. He exhibited the paranoia of even a greater narcissist when he stated, "The internet is a CIA project," he claimed in 2014, without providing any evidence in support of that allegation. To ensure Max's popularity, Moscow plans to ban WhatsApp, the American messaging service that is used by 70% of the Russian adult population. Although Facebook and Instagram, which are also owned by Meta, the US technology firm, were outlawed by Moscow as extremist at the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the Kremlin was reluctant to move against WhatsApp until it had a ready replacement. Accordingly, to maintain this control, competing apps are banned so that the state-sponsored one is the only one that can and should be used. Last week, Anton Nemkin, a member of the Russian Parliament's Information Technology Committee, accused WhatsApp of being a threat to national security, while Kremlin sources told Meduza, an opposition website, that it was 99% certain that the app would be added to a list of foreign software to be banned on Putin's orders. In May, a Russian businessman complained to Putin about Western tech firms such as Microsoft and Zoom that were still operating in the country. "Throttled them," the Russian leader snarled in reply. Although Russia began cracking down on online dissent after the Kremlin's annexation of Crimea, its actions escalated to unprecedented levels following its invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Almost 4,000 people have been prosecuted for online posts criticizing the war in the past 3 years. So it's not just in the United Kingdom that your online activity gets you into trouble. In June, a 28-year-old Russian woman who helped thousands of Ukrainians flee the war zone was sentenced to 22 years in prison over an Instagram post calling for donations to Ukraine's Azov battalion. Nadezhda Rossiyskaya, who is also known as Nadine Geisler, denied writing the post. It is already illegal in Russia to share or even like websites or other online materials that the Kremlin has banned. Again, the assertion of control in a totalitarian fashion. Under a law that was approved by Parliament last week, will probably come into force in September, it will soon be illegal to even search online for extremist materials, even if they are not shared. The Kremlin has classified as extremist everything from the anti-corruption investigations of Alexei Navalny, the opposition leader who died in a Russian prison last year, to information about LGBT issues and a Russian punk song about Putin's death. Last year, Russia blocked 420,000 websites. However, millions of Russians use virtual private networks, or VPNs, which let users circumvent government censorship by disguising their locations. While YouTube, which was once used by the opposition to rally support, has not been blocked, its download speeds have been reduced dramatically inside Russia in an apparent attempt by the Kremlin to discourage its use. The website has lost about 80% of its traffic in the country since December, according to data from Google. For now, Telegram, the online messaging service that was founded by Pavel Durov, the Russian tech tycoon, is being allowed to operate. Durov has denied allegations that the company, which says it has no employees in Russia, has cooperated with the Kremlin security services. Accordingly, not only is it the case that Putin, in order to maintain the necessity of control, bans certain applications and governs with an iron fist the use of the internet within Russia, he is now set to increase his desire for control, to strengthen his grip with the appearance of Max. The driver behind this? The narcissistic psychopath's necessity of control over his populace. For by allowing only certain things to be looked at, to be discussed, he maintains that control. By monitoring where people are, what they're saying and what they are doing, that enables him to clamp down on those that are viewed as dissenters. It allows him to ensure that those that threaten his control can then be nullified. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.